Hey folks, and welcome to our Gem Pursuit podcast. This is episode 3 in season 1, and I thought today we're going to do something a little bit different. I recently recorded a podcast with Ross Hannon in his podcast called In Place, which is a really great podcast, and I definitely recommend you have a listen to it. We were talking about kind of shopkeeping and the jewellery business, Powerscourt Townhouse, and the kind of sense of place that you get when you're actually in this 18th century building. So it's a bit different and has a bit of a different tone, but I thought I'll share it with you here because there's some really good points in it, and I certainly hope you enjoy it. Okay, let's have a listen.
Powerscourt Centre subverts all expectations of what a shopping centre is supposed to be. Not only because of its unique setting, an 18th century Georgian building, but because of the eclectic characters who are drawn to trade there. It probably boasts more craftspeople per square metre than any other building in the country. It's full of goldsmiths, silversmiths, gemologists, horologists, pastry chefs, painters, knitters, seamstresses, tailors, botanists, designers and engravers. In this series, we'll hear their stories. This episode focuses on Courtville, a vintage jewellery shop tucked away in the corner of the Antiques Gallery. When you get here, you see the sign over the door says, "History is just the beginning," and the window display is full of gleaming gemstones. It just seems like an impossibly perfect fit in Powerscourt, almost like it grew here. The shop's been here since the centre opened in 81, but like this 250-year-old building, its story covers a much longer span of time than that. I spent one Thursday morning in the shop with Matty Weldon, who's the owner, and a gemologist called Alice Ketcher. And we talked about loads of things, but mainly family businesses, why people love antiques, the value of old world craftsmanship, the mystery of Irish crown jewels, and the allure of gemstones. So here we go into the world of Courtville.
So you should keep 10% of your wealth in swag, which is silver, wine, antiques and gold. So, I'd probably have about one bottle of wine. It would be my swag, right? But well, I suppose if you consider the shop, I'm way over invested in antiques. But trained as an accountant with KPMG, which was a great grounding, I think, for anyone who wants to go into any sort of business. But then following that, I worked in my family business, which is a jewellery shop, antique jewellery shop. Then after a while, after I did almost 3 years there, I went out by myself and I was doing antique shows. I had no shop, so I was just going, all over the country: Cork, Kerry, Clare, Tipperary. I went up the north, out the West Galway, Midlands, everywhere, doing antique shows. And then this shop came up for sale. The owner was retiring, so she was looking to sell, and I was lucky enough to acquire it. So we're just over 2 years now. But I was thinking these important things you do in your life are these big moments. There's always like external things happening that help us remember. Like I remember that to sign that deal, it was delayed because of the snow. The lady, Grania Pierce, who was a very knowledgeable antiques dealer who was selling, she lived up the Wicklow Mountains and couldn't get the car out of the driveway. Anyway, I managed to get through and we got it signed, and I hope we've done her proud with it so far anyway. We've kept a focus on the antiques side of it. Like, people love antique jewellery, and the skills are all held by older people. So older people know about antiques, they know about the styles, the settings, the history. But I think what's beautiful about what we do is that we have that, because I've been lucky enough to train with Grania Pierce, to train with Jimmy Weldon, my father, and my brother Garrett gave me a lot of advice, and John, my brother John, and sister Joan, all who are in the business and who are older than me. We have an older person's knowledge of the industry, but we've got a younger person's take on it. When I was younger, we watched Antique Roadshow, definitely, and yeah, there'd always be people saying, "Oh, I think that's going to be X or that's going to be Y," price wise, and yeah, we'd invariably get a hold of it. But then there's also we talk about like our businesses and kind of like, you know, there's always a healthy competitive rivalry, because my brother and my sister run an auction house in Dublin, John Well Auctioneers. I obviously have my shop here, Courtville, and then my brother and my dad are on Weldon's on Clarence Street, and even my cousins are here in Powerscourt Townhouse, CM Weldon. So you don't have to, let's talk shopping. It's just what we're all about. It just happens. We have other interests, obviously, but it's your typical family business, I suppose. Like whether you're a family business, whether you're a shopkeeper who owns a jewellery shop, and that's what we are. We're shopkeepers, like so, or whether you're you have a family fish and chip shop. It permeates like everything. It's like a little. It's really unusual because it is actually a big enterprise. Like there's over 40 tenants in here. It's a historic building. There's some, but I think the ethos of it feels more like a community-based thing without getting too touchy-feely about it. Like we know all the security guards, we know the management. We can chat to them about things.
It's like living in a cul-de-sac. That's what it's like.
It's like a little microcosm of society. It's like
sometimes there's competition, sometimes there's happiness, sometimes there's, we need to support each other because somebody is going through something.
All ages, and all the mix of people. Like I love it here. I think it's great, and the centre are very supportive. And
cultures, nationalities,
there's a lot of local businesses. Like you get real independent traders here, which I think is really cool. I don't know if you ever go walking in the hills or anything like that. On our steps here in Dublin, we have amazing hills in Wicklow, and if you go I love walking in the hills and experiencing the way the countryside, say like Lochbray upper and Lochbray lower, and the beautiful hike there. And it's right on our doorstep, and Powerscourt to me is kind of like that. A lot of people don't really kind of know. They know it's here, but they don't really know what it's about. But there's a real sense of place in it. The building, this Powerscourt was made in like 1770s. Like it does transport you back, but you're grounded in the building. Like there's the old walls here. I'm looking out now just across the courtyard, and you can see the beautiful old walls. Okay, so they've got our new signs up on it and stuff like that. But it's totally unique and authentic. And the far side of the house from where we're sitting now is one of the oldest parts of one of the old Georgia builds, a lot of them that were lost. But thankfully this one still stands. And I think the way it works here, you have a lot of local traders, everyone's kind of connected, and there's a lot of camaraderie, and a lot of us are in business competitively, of course, but it's not. People often ask me to say, "Oh God, there's 6 or 7 jewelers there. It must be hard business," but it's not. I don't think we're competitive. We're not. We're all friends, and we all kind of do look out for each other, and it's a great sense of community in the truest sense of the word. There's an old Chinese proverb that says a shopkeeper must have a happy face. You've got to have, a shop has to be a happy shop. People come in, they sense that they enjoy their time there, having a seamless experience with people when they come in. And I suppose that's what I got from my youth. Like I remember growing up, we'd be in the shop, we'd always have to stand out the back. So we wouldn't be on the shop floor, we'd have to stand out the back when people were in there. And you'd always hear how to deal with people, and you'd hear like that good customer service. It's just ingrained in you. I even know it's how I talk to people outside of the shop. I'm kind of, you can't. It's just how you are. Like I love just being in the shop and setting up the window, dealing with people who come in with their queries and stuff. You have to like people, and you have to understand people, I think. And you won't get on with everybody, but you kind of have to. That's just the way you click with some people, that's why you have different staff.
Matthew and I are good at different things. Matthew is charming, and I am a stylist more than anything. There's certain trends that come out, and a lot of people don't know how to accomplish a certain look, or are scared to look at antique jewellery because they don't know how to wear it, or they're scared that it's going to look like they're wearing their grandmother's jewellery and that it's old and out of fashion. So it's just about finding like what's on trend now and showing people how to wear the product in the way that is fashionable and in style. We show how you can use things that are like from the Victorian period, like 1837 to 1901, that particular time period, how to use those particular items in a more fashionable way today. I got my first break in jewellery when I moved to Ireland when I was 18. And really with antique jewellery, you need exposure to it. So it's not so much going to school for it, which I did go to school to learn about the gemstones. But antique jewellery, it needs to be something that you see a lot of. So you have to handle the jewellery, you have to see the different cuts, you have to know the different stylings of the period. You need to be able to look at something and go, like, these are extremely old cuts. And this is a silver setting. We've got rose cut diamonds, we've got silver settings, and then we've got yellow gold with silver. So the likelihood is straight away that this is a Victorian piece because it's the same styling, it's the cut of diamonds that they used during that time, and it's silver settings. Whereas once you go into the next period or the period before this, they don't use these particular cuts with open backs and silver and gold together. Sometimes you look at a piece and you go, oh, that's Art Deco. And then you have a closer look at it and you're like, the gemstone cut isn't right. And I can see markings from where it's actually being cast. It's a reproduction. So it's like those little things, you can usually spot it quite quickly. We can identify it by looking at it saying, yes, the gold is rich, they're the right motifs. And then also using museum catalogues to kind of identify the exact time period from the ancient Egyptian time period the kingdoms, which one it was from. But most people who are purchasing items or artifacts like that want to have a certificate to say that it's specifically from a certain era. The Viking pieces, a lot of people used to use the twisted metal, because the Vikings, it's known as hack jewellery. So basically Vikings weren't very sentimental when it came to jewellery. They were either used it as a talisman, or they used it as what they know is known as hack jewellery. So they'd wear rings and they'd wear big amulets on themselves, and also big large cuffs around their arms. And a lot of the time you would find that there would be pieces hacked off of it, because when they would go to different countries, gold would be a universal way to trade. So they would hack off pieces of gold for food, for water, and so a lot of the jewellery would be kind of what they say damaged in that way, but that actually tells that story as well. It's a different story, but it's obviously every piece of jewellery, what makes them valuable is not only the gemstones but the story that they have behind them.
Jewellery now, a lot of it is mass produced, so the technology has developed to make it cheaper, if not better. You can find rings from the 1920s and they'll be the best made jewellery you'll ever see. Like, I mean, seriously, they will just have intricate detail. They'll have the gemstones will be cut to perfection. The design of it will be beautifully done. And it comes from, like, when you think of the 20s, think of Great Gatsby. It was a very luxurious time, and that is captured in the jewellery. A diamond rough crystal is the shape of two pyramids stuck together with the bases. So from that particular shape, you can usually cut 2 modern round brilliants, kind of one on top of another. But they have computer programs that analyze the rough crystal, and they will compute it and tell you what is the most commercially valuable way to cut this rough crystal. Whereas historically, what they would have done is they would have got that rough crystal and cut the best stone out of it, which would mean the wastage would be more, probably, but you'd end up with a more luxurious, finer stone at the end of it. But most of the rough crystals now today are cut using those 3D programs that can tell you if you cut, two round diamonds, you might get an emerald cut out of another piece. But no, they would have cut a cushion cut, one big cushion cut out of it. And that's where the difference lies. It's not commercial, but it wasn't the way they thought. Whereas today, it's really mechanical. They buy in a bag of diamonds, they'll all get analysed. This is the most commercial value. They cut them. They're set in jewellery by machines. And then you get these mass-produced things, an efficient, slick marketing program. They sell it. Whereas back in the day, it was make the best piece of jewellery, and there'd be relationship marketing, if you want. They'd say, we've got this amazing piece in, you have to see it. And when I'll show you, and we'll go back into the shop here and have another look, I'll show you what I mean. Do I see that jewellery today? And the answer is no. In all your normal jewellery shops, no. That's why we specialise in the old ones. Only in your high-end Cartier, high-end Tiffany & Co., high-end Van Cleef Arpels, you see that. And that stuff, it's not, it doesn't come to market. They have their private events and they sell to clients and things like that.
The dross, or the things that were pushed to the wayside as not gem quality, are now treated and heated to look like natural gemstones. So they're not the same quality as gemstones in Victorian period pieces, or in Edwardian or Art Deco pieces. So you see the colours of nature. It was never supposed to be you look in a window and all of the sapphires are exactly the same colour. It was never supposed to be like that. That's not what the earth creates. The earth creates all of the colours in the blue spectrum, all of the colours in the green spectrum, and that's what makes the jewellery beautiful, is that it has slight differences to it. For me, I love colour and design put together perfectly in something that is worn perfectly on the body, fits you, is wearable, functional, almost like wearable art. That's what I love.
Our gem cutter is in his 90s, and he is the apprentice. Now, I think it actually is. It is a running joke, right? Is that the master is still alive, and he's only 3 or 4 years older than him, right? But it just shows you the culture. You're always learning, and it's a beautiful thing. But it takes a certain type of mentality. But that kind of tradesperson in the jewellery is very rare. There's antiques, even an antique dealer, it's an apprenticeship, because on a given day I could spend, it's not every day, but I could spend 35-40 grand on jewellery. I mean, it's serious business. You could get yourself in a big hole very quickly if you're not super sharp. They were stolen years ago, and actually my grandfather was involved in trying to recover them. He went to London actually to meet with Shackleton, who was the brother of the explorer, Ernest Shackleton. It was very cloak and dagger. He had a letter in advance that told him to bring money, which a vast sum of money, equivalent today of something like 10 million. And he was to request it from the state or the government, and then he'd obviously do some sort of exchange and get the jewellery back, but never saw the jewellery or anything like that, so no transaction happened. But he went to London to meet your man anyway, so they would have known the crown jewellery was missing, so they probably tried to create a situation where they gave the impression that they could recover it when they couldn't. I don't think so. But no one knows. I mean, it could have been the case. No one knows to this day, and the jewellery has not been found.
sitting under somebody's kitchen table. We don't even know it.
Could be sitting in a house somewhere in Dublin or in the country.
In a safe that can't be opened.
Buried in the garden, who knows?
These are the things that keep you guys awake at night.
I mean, the thing is as much as the Irish crown jewels are a mystery because they've been missing, I've seen pictures and I'm not like hugely wowed.
We also had the Russian crown jewels in Ireland, not all of them.
I mean, those I'd be impressed by. The jewellery is incredible. Like Russian jewellery, it's, you know, you have to remember the people who were living on top in Russia were living on everybody else's means. So everybody else was in extreme poverty and they were like giving each other Fabergé eggs, which had no purpose but decorative. So they had these incredible pieces of jewellery that even today people look at and just think, wow.
They can't recreate them.
No, they can't. They can't fix them if they're broken or if they're stolen or lost. There's no way to ever kind of recover the same like for like.
Like some gemstones have their own fabled history, right? The Hope diamond is a blue diamond that was, you know, gone through many hands and seemed to bring the people bad luck who had it. On the flip side, that's just diamonds that people have owned that have seemed to bring good luck. Like the Koh-i-Noor is, I believe, is in the scepter of the English crown jewel at the moment. But the reason it's called the Koh-i-Noor is that the gentleman who was nobility, I think he's from the Middle East, when he saw it, he shouted out in his native language, Koh-i-Noor, which means the mountain of light. This is how I describe gemstones. If a child comes into the shop who knows, clearly they know nothing about jewellery, right? And I mean literally 2 years old, you know, they're just walking or whatever. They'll just come up to the counter and they'll just point at, and they'll always point at like these beautiful stones. It's like human nature, they're drawn to stones. And that's why I am very confident about the outlook of the business, because it's human behaviour. People are drawn to gemstones, but they hold such special, like, and I genuinely mean it's like such emotional, deep, sentimental value, these jewels. So what are the most valuable gems? The ones with the best colour. In Asia, they used to set rubies into their armour. They believe it would give you protection in battle. Amethysts were believed to stop you getting intoxicated. They have these huge powers, and I think children just see the world as it is in front of them. They don't have these filters a lot of the time.
I'll just read you this quote. It said, in other words, precious stones are precious because they bear a faint resemblance to the glowing marvels seen with the inner eye of the visionary. The view of that world, and this is Plato, is a vision of blessed beholders. For to see things as they are in themselves is bliss unalloyed and inexpressible.
Everything that, you see, everyone, okay, so I'm an antiques jewellery dealer, right? And everything that everyone says in this world, you kind of take it with a filter of their perspective. So I am totally biased, right? Because my narrative is, I obviously have a passion for these jewellery, or I think I do anyway, but it's, so when people listen to it, they're like, oh yeah, this person has an interest in it, which is true, but it is actually fundamental human nature. We're drawn to these gems. When we were in caves, when Cleopatra and the pharaohs, in important times, in the pharaohs' tombs and anything to relate with important moments, marriages, funerals, they always refer back to these gems. So it's much deeper than jewellery.
This episode was produced by me, Ross Hannon. Thank you to Powerscourt Centre, to Matthew Weldon, Elise Ketcher, and to Catherine Toolan-Coakley for the music. And we'll see you next time.